So when it was over, he comes up to John, somebody said, he looked around and says, "What's the f?" He said, "In 40 years of directing, I've never been called the f," he said.
Hollywood, the place where the lights never go out, where every smile is polished to perfection, and every flaw seems swallowed by the studio glow. But behind the shimmering makeup and dreamlike frames are bodies marked by stitches, bones held together with steel, and smiles crafted not from joy but from dentistry. Some spent their entire lives with metal rods fused to their spines just to keep from collapsing on set. Others sacrificed their hearing, their faces, or even parts of their bodies to preserve the brilliance that audiences continued to worship. In today's video, we'll lift the curtain behind the light to reveal 18 legendary stars of Hollywood's golden age who paid for their glory with their own flesh and blood. 1. Clark Gable, $1 million smile cast in metal. One afternoon in May 1933, the entire MGM lot suddenly shut down, with staff barred from revealing the reason. The studio's money-making star, Clark Gable, abruptly vanished in the middle of filming Dancing Lady. Rumors swept across Beverly Hills. Some said he'd fallen off a horse. Others insisted he was renovating his looks. But the truth, hidden for decades, sent a chill through Hollywood. According to internal files from the MGM medical department, Gable suffered severe gum disease due to an unending habit of smoking and sipping strong drink between takes. The infection spread deep into the jawbone, forcing renowned dentist Dr. Charles L. Pincus to order the removal of all natural teeth and their replacement with a fixed platinum dental set, costing $25,000, roughly $500,000 today. All medical staff had to sign confidentiality agreements under the direct supervision of MGM representatives. After a procedure lasting more than 6 hours, Gable virtually disappeared from public view. During 2 months of seclusion in Laurel Canyon, he lost weight rapidly, his speech slurred, and he struggled to eat normally. In October 1933, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner reported, "Clark Gable has vanished from Hollywood. Something unusual lurks behind the smile that once made America swoon." When he returned in It Happened One Night, 1934, Gable trained for hours to speak smoothly and smile naturally with the new set. The film won him an Oscar, but backstage chatter buzzed. Co-star Claudette Colbert complained that the metallic smell made me dizzy, while makeup artist Monty Westmore confirmed Gable always kept mints and a personal mouthwash bottle before every scene. During Gone with the Wind, 1939, Vivien Leigh recalled that the kissing scene with Gable was the most uncomfortable experience of my life. Yet on screen, that smile still captivated the world. By the late 1940s, when the New York Mirror ran a story that MGM bankrolled a complete dental overhaul for its #1 star, the studio threatened legal action and forced a retraction. 30 years later, in a memoir, a nurse at Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center confirmed, "Every night he took out his dentures and placed them carefully in a silver case engraved King Gable." That smile, the emblem of perfection, turned out to be cast from metal, forged from pain, money, and secrets only Hollywood had the power to hide. And from that engineered smile, the next story takes us to another legend, Robert Duvall, who didn't lose his smile but lost his hearing, and still made the whole world listen in a different way. 2. Robert Duvall, the man who lost hearing but not grit. Few know that Robert Duvall, who terrified millions in Apocalypse Now with the line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," had in fact lost nearly all hearing in his left ear at a young age. The accident happened in the late 1950s, when he was still an unknown stage actor in New York. During a rehearsal, a prop firearm discharged just inches from his head. The intense sound wave tore his left eardrum, leaving permanent damage. Afterward, Duvall needed almost a year to adjust to imbalance and constant ringing. Doctors at Bellevue Hospital once advised him to give up acting, since single-ear hearing loss could disrupt orientation on stage. But Duvall refused to surrender. He trained himself to sense sound through floor vibrations, learned to read lips to follow scene partners, and timed his lines to his own heartbeat. "I can't hear clearly anymore, but I can feel every line," he once shared on CBS Sunday Morning. Remarkably, audiences never noticed. Throughout his career, Duvall delivered dozens of roles with such precision in dialogue that few believed he heard with only one ear. Directors from Francis Ford Coppola to Robert Altman affirmed that he has an instinctive sense of rhythm in dialogue. He doesn't need ears to listen. Even so, the incident made him more reserved. On set, Duvall often requested a fixed position so that his right ear would face his co-actors. The tale of a man who lost half his hearing yet dominated the screen led many to call him Hollywood's hearing warrior. A body with limitations, but a will without them. Across the ocean, meanwhile, a diamond goddess carried metal scars no one could see. Elizabeth Taylor, the diamond goddess with a steel back and scars beneath the dress. On March 23, 1961, BBC Radio issued an urgent bulletin. Elizabeth Taylor has been hospitalized in critical condition in London. All of Britain was alarmed. Papers reported pneumonia, but later records at Dorchester Hospital revealed that Taylor had fainted from acute spinal pain, the consequence of a childhood riding accident she had concealed for nearly 2 decades. In 1944, at just 12, Taylor fell from a horse while filming National Velvet. The fall fractured the third vertebra and tore spinal ligaments. Doctors at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital put her in a full body cast for 3 months. Taylor never told anyone, fearing she'd lose her first major role. For 2 decades, she lived with pain. While shooting Cleopatra, 1962, in Rome, Taylor wore a steel back brace hidden beneath her gowns, custom designed by costume legend Irene Sharaff. Her personal physician, Dr. Rexford Kennemer, told Vanity Fair, "Some days she received strong pain medication backstage, then went out and smiled as if nothing had happened." Prolonged pain led Taylor to undergo more than 30 procedures. She often canceled press tours at the last minute, igniting a swarm of rumors: medication dependence, low spirits, emotional strain. On CBS Morning Show in 1973, when the host jokingly asked, "Is it true you have metal inside you?" Taylor only smiled. "If I do, I hope it shines as brightly as my diamonds." Behind that smile were 2 steel rods, each over 20 centimeters, stabilizing her spine, along with dozens of scars hidden beneath dazzling gowns. Close friend Debbie Reynolds once said, "Liz is the only person I know who can be in pain and still shine." Even in 2004, when Taylor attended the Oscars for the last time, she moved in a gold-plated wheelchair, crowned with diamonds, quipping to the press, "My body is the neatest patchwork in Hollywood." In the same era, however, another man guarded a far greater secret, not just metal within, but the absence of a limb. 4. Herbert Marshall, the one-legged gentleman who fooled Hollywood for 3 decades. Spring 1917, the Battle of Arras in France. A shell burst cut across a field of fire. Lieutenant Herbert Marshall, 27, of the London Rifle Brigade, had his right leg shattered by shrapnel. Army Doctor Arthur Mackenzie wrote in his journal, "He didn't moan. When I told him we would have to remove the leg, he only asked, 'Will I still be able to stand on a stage?'" The operation took place that very night. When he woke, Marshall had lost part of his body, but not his ambition. After the war, he spent 2 years learning to walk with a wooden prosthesis, then returned to the West End. In 1930, Paramount brought him to America on a long-term contract. The studio even hired Boeing engineers to craft a special aluminum prosthetic, lightweight and silent. Thus, When Marshall walked onto a set, no one knew he had only one leg. In public, he was a serene gentleman. Behind the curtain, the old pain never left. He needed daily pain relief. During Trouble in Paradise, 1932, co-star Kay Francis wrote in her memoir, "Sometimes he pressed his lips tight, face going pale from pain, but once the camera rolled, it all disappeared." By 1934, Marshall met Gloria Swanson on Riptide. They plunged into a passionate relationship, despite Swanson's divorce and his reliance on pain medication. Hollywood Citizen News ran the headline, "A couple together on medication," prompting MGM to step in, urging silence to protect their images. In truth, Marshall couldn't stop the medication. His worn prosthesis had begun to irritate the old surgical site, causing recurring bleeding. By the late 1950s, infection returned. Even so, he took a role in The Fly, 1958. In a scene where the character emerges from the shadows with a cane, the tilt audiences thought was acting was actually Marshall genuinely losing balance from pain. He passed away in 1966, leaving more than 60 films, and a secret Hollywood only learned upon reading his will. "Do not pity me, I lost a leg, not my dream." Herbert Marshall's story closes a chapter of resolve, but Hollywood still holds countless other mysteries, faces that seemed flawless while carrying hidden flaws no one expected. 5. Montgomery Clift, the angelic face turned ghostly mask. Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles, night of May 12, 1956. The taillights of a silver-blue Cadillac wavered, then went dark just before the narrow driveway to 2172 on a steep slope. The sound of metal bending and glass shattering made the hillside hold its breath. The host had seen his guest out only minutes earlier, Elizabeth Taylor. She rushed out, still in her evening gown, and found Montgomery Clift slumped over the wheel, shirt front soaked in blood, lower jaw dislocated, nose askew, fragments of teeth embedded deep in his cheek. The Los Angeles Times reported succinctly the next morning, "Unrecognizable. At Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, doctors wired the jaw with metal braces, stabilized the left cheekbone, and adjusted the nose. The facial nerves on the left weakened visibly, leaving a smile that lifted only one side." Clift avoided mirrors during 4 months of recovery. Close friend Kevin McCarthy recalled that when he finally stood before a hospital mirror, he was silent for a long time. It was a fall from a face hailed as the most perfect of the 1950s on the cover of Life, to a new appearance unfamiliar even to its owner. But the comeback is what Hollywood remembers. In less than a year, Clift walked onto the set of Raintree County, 1957, standing beside Elizabeth Taylor as if nothing had happened. When the lens moved in, the left cheek was rigid, the eye socket hollowed. He had to control every syllable to mask jaw misalignment. The New York Post called it the ghost smile. Variety analyzed frames and noted that his left hand often moved subtly to balance the facial axis, a trick to let lighting veil the injured side. The return brought a vortex of rumors. Columnist Hedda Hopper wrote that Clift was running away from himself. Audiences wondered why he grew more private, appeared less on talk shows, and avoided close-up photos at premieres at Grauman's Chinese Theater. Friends said he often sat by windows at gatherings, eyes turned to the street as if he could rewind to a moment before the crash and change it. In later years, Clift chose a quiet life in New York, removing mirrors and limiting photographs at home. When he died in 1966, police noted a single youthful photo face down on a wooden table. The press called him Hollywood's haunted image, not for leaving early, but for spending his final decade as a shadow behind a new mask. From Clift's shattered mirror, Hollywood learned that on-screen beauty is no lifetime promise. One wrong turn, and everything can change. In that same decade, another platinum-haired star paid the price with her very smile. 6. Jean Harlow, the platinum goddess with a crafted smile. In the early 1930s, America adored Jean Harlow in Red Dust and Dinner at 8, her hair shining like silver mist under studio lights. Few realized that such perfection was maintained by harsh methods. From 1935, Harlow repeatedly bleached her hair with highly oxidative mixtures. A Beverly Hills dentist warned of risks to dental enamel, but relentless schedules allowed no rest. In 1936, gum inflammation advanced quickly. Harlow lost 2 front teeth and had porcelain replacements. Photoplay teased a platinum smile made of Italian porcelain, prompting MGM to respond firmly and bar health questions about its top star. But teeth were only the surface. That same year, Harlow quietly underwent surgery for a cyst at Good Samaritan Hospital, leaving a long scar down the right hip. From then on, she often wore very tight shaping corsets to conceal the flaw and maintain a perfect waist on camera. The pressure added strain to the abdomen and urinary system, leaving her fatigued. Makeup artist William Tuttle recalled that Harlow often had to pause mid-scene due to gum pain at the prosthetic site. Yet, when the camera rolled again, the smile returned radiant. In the final months of 1936, Saratoga publicity stills showed a visibly thinner Harlow, paler, with a habitual hand against her abdomen. Rumors flared immediately. Some articles suspected reactions to hair chemicals. Others hinted at a condition more serious than announced. In early June 1937, Harlow was rushed to hospital in a state of exhaustion. Later medical records confirmed she passed away from acute kidney failure. Variety wrote an even-toned line. The platinum bombshell has gone out, leaving a glow reflected by porcelain and metal. The last photo from the Saratoga set shows Harlow still smiling, eyes slightly lowered, her hand closing as if shielding a secret. Her story taught Hollywood that beauty is sometimes propped up by cold materials. After a porcelain smile, film history would soon witness a throne on wheels. 7. Lionel Barrymore, the king on a wheelchair. When audiences watched It's a Wonderful Life in 1946, they saw an immobile, powerful old man in a wheelchair and thought it was a prop choice. In reality, it reflected Lionel Barrymore's physical limits. Born in 1878 into a great acting family, Barrymore entered films in the silent era, directed Garbo, acted with Chaney, and helped lay the groundwork for naturalistic screen acting in the early 20th century. In the late 1930s, a severe hip injury combined with chronic arthritis sent Barrymore to Los Angeles Orthopedic Hospital. Variety in November 1937 ran a brief note. Barrymore halts work indefinitely. A years-long series of medical interventions followed: joint replacement, joint fluid drainage, spinal bracing. By 1938, he was advised to move about in a wheelchair. MGM didn't sideline him. They rewrote roles, built sets and pathways to suit, and even added a clause allowing him to bring his own chair, as The Hollywood Reporter revealed in 1941. From then on, Barrymore became the model for commanding characters who never stand, projecting authority even when the body is still. On NBC Radio in 1945, he said a line that entered film history. "My body sits, my mind still acts." Co-stars recalled that he shaped climaxes with his eyes instead of footwork and gestures, concentrating the energy of a scene. Away from the set, some columns gossiped that MGM was hiding the star's weakness. His steady, regular appearances were the answer. Barrymore passed away in 1954 in California, gazing toward the Pacific from his Santa Monica home. He couldn't stand at the very end as he had wished, but he left a rare lesson. Acting resides not only in muscle, but in memory, breath, and gaze. After that wheelchair, the screen kept recording the fates of artists who traded their bodies for brilliance, some with metal, some with scars, some missing parts of themselves. Next, meet a golden voice that used sound to veil the stitches on her skin. Proof that sometimes art is the warmest cloak for a body full of hurt. 8. Judy Garland, the golden voice in a stitched-together body. Morning in Culver City, 1939. MGM's recording stage lights up while the air is still misty. A 16-year-old girl stands before the microphone, hands at her abdomen, and still delivers "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" with astonishing purity. Few knew that before entering the studio, Judy Garland had swallowed a handful of the studio's energy vitamins and signed a form confirming she could work through the night. On-lot physician Dr. Charles Lucky noted coolly in 1942, "Signs of internal bleeding, but the schedule cannot move." From age 13, Garland's body was managed like a machine. Little sleep, relentless singing and dance drills, and performance aids to keep from collapsing. The effects accumulated over the years. In the early 1950s, doctors at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York had to intervene repeatedly on her stomach, removing ulcerated tissue, repairing torn intestinal walls, leaving a scar nearly 30 centimeters long from below the sternum to the navel. From then on, at each performance, she wore a steel corset to stand upright and to hide the scar beneath sequined gowns. Skin wounds were one thing, the impact on her voice was another. Due to long-term reliance on prescriptions, her dental enamel weakened. Some teeth were lost, and Garland used dental appliances when singing live. Composer Roger Edens noted in his journal that some nights she slipped out of the dressing room to adjust her bite, worried about breath control on high notes. After shows, crew members applied warm compresses to her abdomen and massaged her back to ease spasms. Meanwhile, rumor never relented. The Hollywood Reporter questioned secret procedures to slim down, while Variety hinted at dependence on medical prescriptions to sustain workload. Garland stayed silent. She chose to keep singing, as if each surgical stitch were a sustained note. In 1963, on The Jack Parr Show, when asked about her health, she only smiled. "On stage, I'm always fine." When Garland died in London in 1969, the autopsy record tersely noted, "Multiple abdominal surgical scars." The story closed not with a loud tragedy, but with a truth few saw. That golden voice was upheld by steel, bandages, and will. From a patched body came perfect sound, and Hollywood moved on to a man who traded part of his hand for the world's laughter. 9. Harold Lloyd, the missing fingers and the blast that made Hollywood go silent. A summer noon in 1919, a publicity photo shoot in downtown Los Angeles buzzed like a fair. Rising comedy star Harold Lloyd was handed a smoke bomb for effect. Everyone laughed. The photographer counted down, then a crack of thunder tore the air. The prop was a real grenade. Fire seared his face. Black smoke swallowed the frame. By the time he reached the hospital, Lloyd had lost his right thumb and index finger, suffered severe corneal injury, and his face was covered in blood. The Los Angeles Examiner blared, "Harold Lloyd may be blind for life." 2 months later, his sight gradually returned, but his right hand had only 3 fingers. Lloyd chose to return to set instead of leaving the screen. He commissioned a leather mechanical glove with an inner steel frame and 2 false fingers tinted to match his skin. In 1923, filming Safety Last, the famous clock-dangling sequence was no trick of montage. Each slip left his whole body hanging from steel edges, the grip strength coming from 3 fingers. No CGI, no openly visible wires, just an actor who knew, down to the millimeter, the remaining power in his hand. Hal Roach Studios kept the accident quiet for years, banning any behind-the-scenes images of the hand. Then, in 1930, a leaked photo of Lloyd removing the glove surfaced, and Photoplay asked, Comedy hero or man concealing a flaw? Audiences argued fiercely. Most felt admiration. The loss made every stunt breath-stealingly real. Lloyd didn't argue. He kept making films, shaking hands with the other hand, and told Preston Sturges on a collaboration. Every handshake now is a reminder. From The Secret of a Truncated Hand, the world realized that behind laughter lie sweat and scars. Hollywood's shine is sometimes held together by screws and metal plates. At that very moment, another icon was turning injury into style, stepping on stage as a declaration. Marlene Dietrich, steel-bound legs and a legend's counterattack. Paris, 1974. The lights of Théâtre de l'Étoile fall on a high-slit gown and legs wrapped in sparkling white bandage. The audience rises in applause. They think Marlene Dietrich is trying a new fashion. In truth, beneath the bandage lie knees reinforced with metal after a stage accident. A year earlier in Spain, a night show in Madrid went wrong. Dietrich slipped on steps, fracturing the kneecap and tearing ligaments in the right knee. She was taken to Clinica Roubaix, where a more than 5-hour operation fixed the joint with steel. Doctors advised retirement to prevent permanent disability. But just 3 months later, Dietrich reappeared in Paris, relearning to walk with hidden braces beneath silk stockings, turning each movement into a signature line. Crucially, she didn't hide. Dietrich deliberately raised the slit of her gown so the bandage became a kind of stage accessory. Le Figaro headlined, "Marlene turns pain into emblem." In design circles, many recalled her asking for costume adjustments so the stage lights would reflect purposefully on the bandage, creating the impression of metallic shimmer. Backstage, assistants soaked her legs in cold water for hours and wrapped fresh bandages for the next show. Rumors from Der Spiegel swirled. She relies on medical support just to stand on stage. Marlene didn't reply. She simply walked out every night, finished the set, and slipped away as if she had never been weak. Over time, those steel legs became legend. Fans no longer saw Dietrich only as the tuxedoed figure in Morocco, 1930, but as the embodiment of a vow. The body may break, poise does not. When she died in Paris in 1992, medical records confirmed the knee stabilizer remained in place. That piece of metal bore her will's imprint, closing a life of performance that never stepped back. After Dietrich's story, the filmic thread leads us to another face that shocked the world by daring to smile through scars, where radiance and imperfection stood side by side, neither hiding the other. 11. Humphrey Bogart, the mysterious tear that made his legendary smile. Not every director knew that the feature which made Humphrey Bogart an icon began with a real wound on his face. The scar at the corner of his left mouth gave his smile a slight tilt and his voice a gravelly, compressed edge, an unmistakable character that Hollywood tried to imitate for decades but never matched. The source of the scar remains an unresolved mystery, U.S. says. Navy records note that Bogart was injured while serving aboard the USS Leviathan in World War I. During a struggle while escorting detainees, a rioter allegedly wrenched a weapon and struck him in the face with the stock, tearing the upper lip to the gum. A ship's medic stitched it hastily on deck, leaving a scar that pulled the jaw muscles off center. But the New York Daily Mirror told another version. The wound came from a barroom fracas after Bogart stepped in to defend a friend who'd been insulted. Whichever story is true, the outcome was the same. Bogart's smile was never the same again. When he entered Hollywood, that very distinction drew attention. Warner Brothers cinematographers found that lighting the scarred half-face created an enigmatic effect. Michael Curtiz, director of Casablanca, requested angled setups to keep that off-kilter smile because it holds Rick Blaine's soul. Ironically, Bogart once tried everything to remove the scar. In the 1930s, he quietly visited famed Beverly Hills surgeon George Callahan to ask if they could reset the jaw muscles. After hearing that surgery could alter his voice, he dropped the idea. He began to view the scar as part of his identity, even telling a Life magazine reporter, "I've got nothing to hide. The scar helps me tell the truth to the camera." Hollywood still wouldn't let him be. In 1948, a Los Angeles Examiner piece claimed Bogart had a failed procedure that warped his face to bait readers, making him so angry he threatened to sue. The public, meanwhile, was more drawn than ever. They called him the Man with the Broken Smile, a nickname both sad and strange and eerily accurate. Bogart used his wound to forge an icon. That crooked smile, eyes narrowed through smoke, the dry, rough voice. Together they formed the loneliest man in Hollywood. An injury that seemed accidental became the spirit of an era. While Bogart turned hurt into poise, another artist transformed physical pain into movement, leaving a mark on the stage with both metal and sweat. 12. Gene Kelly, when the feet weren't agile anymore yet still enchanted. The world behind the graceful steps in Singin' in the Rain, behind the radiant smile under artificial rain, Gene Kelly was hiding a truth only his closest co-stars knew. He could no longer rotate his right ankle. The accident happened during rehearsals for Summer Stock in 1949. In a chain spin, Kelly landed badly, and his right ankle bone shattered into 3 pieces. At Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, doctors inserted steel pins and immobilized the joint for 7 hours. They warned he might never dance the same again. But Kelly refused to surrender. He returned to the studio just 4 months later, walking with a metal brace and enduring severe pain whenever he turned. Choreographer Stanley Donen recalled that every jump Gene made was like stabbing straight into the wound. In Singin' in the Rain, 1952, Kelly danced under ice-cold artificial water at night, his right ankle swollen red, padded with 2 layers of bandage and a slim support inside his shoe. He filmed for 12 straight hours until his body temperature dropped, and he needed warm compresses to prevent cramps. That scene became a cinema icon, but few knew Kelly lay motionless for 2 days afterward. Strangely, that very injury forged his distinctive style. Unable to pivot as before, Kelly developed a firm beat technique that made each step thump like a drum. Critics called it steel choreography, powerful, precise, free of excess. Alongside the glory came persistent rumors. Variety once reported that Kelly hid the injury behind spirits and painkillers. Co-stars denied it, but the rumor saddled him with the nickname Cold Steel Dancer. When a reporter asked about the ankle pain, Kelly just smiled. Sometimes you have to bear pain to let others feel joy. In later years, he still carried 2 steel pins, his ankle no longer agile, yet whenever the music rose, Gene Kelly moved as if nothing had ever broken. His story stands as proof that art doesn't require a perfect body, only a heart that refuses to give in. Yet, there was someone who couldn't even stand anymore, and still made the world tremble with a single gaze. 13. Bela Lugosi, the real Dracula, could no longer stand up. When the studio lights went dark, Dracula Bela Lugosi didn't return to a coffin like on screen. He returned to a hospital bed, where he spent much of his final years unable to stand unaided. After decades playing villains, Lugosi's body truly began to fail from a spinal injury during the filming of The Black Cat in 1934. He fell from scaffolding more than 3 meters high, slammed onto the floor, and damaged his lumbar vertebrae and sciatic nerve. At the time, Universal told him to take just a few weeks off, then resume shooting. No one realized the injury would progress into severe disc degeneration, leaving Lugosi in such pain that he couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes. In the 1940s, he had to lean on a chair or wall in most scenes. During Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, 1948, the crew had to adjust lighting so audiences wouldn't notice him bracing himself mid-line. A crew member told the Hollywood Citizen News, "After every take, Lugosi collapsed into a chair, his vest soaked with sweat." As his career waned and health collapsed, he kept working under financial pressure. The cruelest part was the rumor that he was going mad from living as Dracula too long. Confidential even wrote that Lugosi slept in a Dracula cape and feared daylight. In reality, he was wrestling with chronic pain and loneliness in a small apartment on Hollywood Boulevard. When his health finally broke, Lugosi accepted work with director Ed Wood, the only person who still believed he could act. In Bride of the Monster, 1955, Lugosi was truly lying in a real hospital bed, an IV cleverly hidden under his sleeve. Every look in the film was real. He no longer had the strength to stand. In August 1956, the news raced across America. Bela Lugosi passes away in the Dracula costume. The scene stirred both pity and chills. A Los Angeles Times reporter wrote, "He died the way he lived, never stepping out of the role." Lugosi's story closed as a tragedy, but also a warning. No matter how dazzling Hollywood's light, it cannot hide the broken bodies behind it. After him, the world continued worshiping perfect faces, but whenever the screen flickers on, somewhere in those proud looks we glimpse artists who burned their scarred bodies to light up cinema. 14. Peter Lorre, the melting face of Hollywood's shadow. Born in Hungary, Peter Lorre became a legend with his role as a killer in Fritz Lang's M, 1931. After moving to Hollywood, he quickly became famous for a face like no other. Sunken eyes, fluttering lids, hands that seemed slightly clawed. But that unsettling image wasn't a character design. It was the result of a medical mistake during years of treatment for spinal nerve pain in Berlin. According to archives at Charité Hospital, Lorre had been prescribed a pain medication containing a neuroinhibitory compound, taken continuously over a long period. After coming to America, he continued using it due to chronic back pain, gradually causing facial muscle contractions, clenched hands, and early wrinkling that warped his face as if melting. Strangely, Hollywood was captivated. Alfred Hitchcock once said on CBS Camera 3, "Peter Lorre doesn't need makeup to be frightening. His face already tells the story." The image of a small man with a feverish gaze and trembling hands became the hallmark of classic villainy in The Maltese Falcon, 1941, and Casablanca, 1942. Fame came with a swirl of rumors. The Los Angeles Herald claimed Lorre had a failed cosmetic surgery that deformed his face, while Variety suggested facial paralysis after a rare illness. Co-star Humphrey Bogart once joked that Peter isn't acting, he's actually trembling. Beneath the quip lay sympathy. On set, Lorre wrapped his hands in bandages to keep the fingers from curling and always carried pain medication. Despite a failing body, Lorre worked to the end. When he died in 1964, the coroner noted, "Atrophy of the left facial muscles, deformity of the right hand, signs of many years of pain." Yet audiences remember him as one of the most beautiful among the imperfect, proof that sometimes tragedy is the root of legend. After Peter Lorre, Hollywood witnessed another star marked on his face, but this time not by illness, rather by a near-fatal crash. 15. Kirk Douglas, the crooked smile after a fall from the sky. When Kirk Douglas appeared on television after his 1991 helicopter crash, America was stunned. The Spartacus hero, an emblem of rugged strength, now spoke with one side of his face unmoving, his mouth slanting downward. Instead of hiding, Douglas smiled, a half-whole, half-broken smile, and said, "I'm still alive, so I win." The crash happened on the morning of February 23, 1991, as Douglas sat in a private helicopter leaving Santa Paula Airport in California. It collided with a small plane seconds after takeoff, killing 2 people and slamming Douglas against the cockpit frame. Rescued unconscious, he had severe facial trauma. Compression of the right facial nerve left temporary paralysis. At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, he couldn't articulate clearly. His right eye drooped, his mouth pulled crooked. Doctors warned recovery prospects were low, yet just weeks later, he appeared on ABC's Nightline, declaring that the crash didn't take my fighting spirit. From then on, the crooked smile became part of him, not a mark of ruin, but a badge of will. The New York Times wrote, Douglas turned his injured face into character, tough, weathered, indomitable. The crash also sparked controversy. Some outlets like The Hollywood Reporter questioned why Douglas piloted the helicopter without a valid commercial license. Rumors claimed he insisted on controlling the flight despite weather warnings, prompting public criticism. Douglas stayed mostly silent, speaking just once in a 1992 interview. Yes, I was stubborn, but if I'd been fearful, I wouldn't be here. He lived 3 more decades. That crooked smile, far from dimming his hero image, made Kirk Douglas more human, a man who fell, yet never stayed down. In that spirit, his colleague Burt Lancaster proved that even broken shoulders couldn't stop a truly courageous actor. 16. Burt Lancaster, broken shoulders and a fearless spirit.
I've ever worked with is Mr. Visconti.
Yes, well, that's
Yes.
leading us to the question I was going to put.
And I've worked with some very good ones. John Huston is very, very good. I worked with Carol Reed. He's very, very fine.
To many, Burt Lancaster epitomized classic Hollywood. A hard-hewn body, a bright smile, and piercing eyes. Yet behind that image lay a severe shoulder injury that nearly kept him from lifting his arm, fallout from diving into a stunt himself rather than using a double. The accident came in 1954 on the Tennessee set of The Kentuckian. In a hillside fight scene, Lancaster jumped nearly 4 meters into a river. The impact wrenched his shoulder so badly that the scapula rotated, ligaments tore, and tendons snapped. Variety later reported, Burt Lancaster hospitalized with serious shoulder injury, full recovery 50-50. After surgery, doctors advised at least a year off. Just 6 months later, Lancaster was back for Trapeze, 1956, a film that demanded real aerial acrobatics. Producers panicked when they learned he wasn't fully healed. An assistant director wrote in his diary, "He once flew through the frame, crashed onto the net, and the shoulder cracked audibly. Then he climbed right back up. The injury left him unable to fully rotate the joint. Pain flared whenever he raised his right arm above shoulder level. Still, he performed the daring shots himself, even in The Train, 1964. Clambering onto moving rail cars. After release, Time magazine dubbed him the man without limits. Hollywood, of course, had its rumors. Some journalists said he played the hero to cover up illness. Others claimed he had to take pain relief before every scene. Co-star Tony Curtis recalled that he showed up with the shoulder wrapped white, laughing like nothing was wrong. In old age, well past 70, Lancaster still had a metal pin holding the joint, making it hard to button a shirt alone. In his final CBS Sunday Morning interview, he said one line that left viewers silent. "I wasn't born to avoid falls, I was born to fall the right way." From Peter Lorre's melting face to Kirk Douglas's crooked smile and Burt Lancaster's broken shoulders, Hollywood seems built on imperfect bodies. These aren't the lucky, they're the strongest souls who use their injuries to write legend. 17. Audrey Hepburn, the world's muse born from hunger.
I've always had great doubts about myself, about my looks, about my talent or so-called talent.
To walk as lightly as mist and keep a figure so slender it seemed a breeze could lift it, Audrey Hepburn paid with years of hunger that reshaped her body. That airy grace wasn't training or genetics, it was the imprint left by one of World War II's harshest periods. In a memoir recounted by her son, Luca Dotti, Hepburn weighed just 38 kilos at age 15 while living with her mother in Arnhem, the Netherlands, under occupation. Once aristocratic, the family lost everything to war, surviving on turnips and stale bread. She was severely malnourished, often fainting while foraging for food. Local doctors after the war noted, Audrey suffered extreme protein deficiency leading to atrophy in the right leg and slight ankle deformity. Few know that those weakened legs cost Hepburn her dream of becoming a professional ballerina. In 1945, when she applied to the Arnhem Conservatory of Ballet, an instructor assessed that her ankles were too weak to bear the spring. Hepburn told the BBC, "I once thought my legs had betrayed me until I realized they'd saved me, teaching me to move as if I were weightless." After entering Hollywood, wartime effects lingered. During photo shoots, Hepburn often needed a rest every 20 minutes due to leg pain and swelling, masking it with a smile and saying, "It's just that the heels are a bit tight." Her personal physician, Dr. Ralph Millard, revealed she developed early bone fragility from youth malnutrition, so each step had to be careful to avoid sprains. Audiences loved that very delicacy. The gentle drift of her walk in Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961, and Funny Face, 1957, became her signature. Vogue once wrote, "Audrey moves as if her body were woven from music. She never hid her past." In her final Vanity Fair interview, Hepburn said, "I once starved so much I lost any sense of beauty. Perhaps that's why I learned to see beauty in the smallest things." She later served as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, traveling widely to help children in need. Audrey Hepburn's story proves that purity isn't luck. It's shaped by hunger, fear, and hardship. Unlike those who carry wounds only in memory, some bear them in plain sight. A face once called Hollywood's most beautiful, then altered in an instant. 18. James Dean, a torn face before fate came knocking. Before the silver Porsche nicknamed Little Bastard left the highway in 1955, James Dean had already felt fate bite his face more than once. Few know that before he died, he survived another crash that cost him front teeth, broke his wrist, and left a scar running down his left cheek, a warning etched by destiny. Dean was 23, a rising star of rebel without a cause. While driving a Triumph TR2 in a trial race at Santa Barbara, he lost control on a slick surface and slammed into a steel fence. The impact threw his face into the steering wheel. His front teeth flew out, his lips split deep, his right wrist broke, and his face ballooned with bruises. Rushed to Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, he received more than 40 stitches. Doctors urged months of rest, but Dean returned to set after just 10 days. Producer Jack Warner said at a press conference that Dean showed up with a swollen face but eyes bright enough to unsettle you. The scar traced from his left cheekbone down near his mouth, lending a fierceness that director Nicholas Ray called the beauty of someone mocked by fate. After the crash, Dean became fixated on speed. In 1955, Life ran a piece titled, "A Handsome Young Man Flirting with Danger." Friends said he often spoke of the freedom in those few seconds before impact. Around that time, rumors spread that Dean craved risk, and Warner Brothers formally warned they would end his contract if he kept racing. In September 1955, just 4 months after the first accident, Dean drove his new Porsche 550 Spyder to Salinas for another race. At the Cholami Junction, an oncoming car turned unexpectedly. Dean couldn't avoid it. The collision was devastating. He died on the spot. Police recorded at the scene lower jaw shattered, teeth lost, right wrist deformed, old scar on the left cheek still visible. The eerie coincidence was that just before his death, Dean had filmed a safety PSA for Warner Brothers, in which he said, "Take it easy driving, life isn't a game." It aired days after he died, shocking the nation. Conspiracy theories sprouted. Some believed the little bastard was cursed because anyone who owned it afterward met with mishaps. Whether fate or not, James Dean became the emblem of youth, a man with a scarred face, a burning heart, and a passing as swift as a hard swerve. And so, closing this list of stars bearing unhealed wounds, we realize Hollywood wasn't built only on beauty and light, but on blood, metal, and bodies that would never be whole again. Those scars, on faces or in hearts, are what make them immortal. The wounds, the steel, the crooked smiles, and the trembling legs have all become part of Hollywood's history. They didn't just act on screen. They acted with their own bodies, fighting pain to bring timeless beauty to the world. Perhaps it is precisely this imperfection that makes them great, because behind every legend is a real person, with real scars. Which story among these 17 stars impressed you most? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss other secrets behind Hollywood's dazzling glow.